Hi friends, Chris Hardy here, one of the pastors at West Lawn United Methodist Church. And again, want to say thank you for tuning in as we continue and almost complete our Ask the Pastor series. Your burning theological questions that you have submitted to Pastor Jeff and I. And we have done our best to express our opinions, our beliefs based on Scripture, our tradition and the Wesleyan tradition, our reason and our experience. And today's question, we'll go right into it, is, why does it seem like bad things continually happen to the same people, even when they are not seemingly making bad decisions such as using drugs, infidelity, acting out as a racist, etc., while others seem to live charmed lives when both are seemingly Christians? So, it's that age-old question of theodicy. Why do bad things happen to good people, right? And this person even gives us some examples. There's a person here that two people, both are Christians. One has a charmed life, so to speak, where things aren't appearing to go wrong in their lives. Other person who is equally a Christian, we'll say, for the sake of hypothetical argument here, and they are not making bad choices, living an upright life, we'll say, but bad things continue to happen to them. They even go on to give an example, and she says, or they say, I don't remember who submitted this. For instance, I had a coworker whose husband was diagnosed with a disease so rare only 10 people in the world had it, and he was in medical textbooks. He lived longer than most, only 45 before dying. Then she fought colon cancer twice. Then her 21-year-old son was hit by a dump truck, and her other son was a responding firefighter and saw him die. As a result, her daughter quit a full scholarship college path, and now refuses to leave home or drive. Well, first, our hearts go out to this family. Terrible, tragic, heartbreaking. And my mind goes with this question, with this example, to the book of Job in the Old Testament. First couple chapters in Job is being tested, so to speak. The beginning, he was blameless, Scripture tells us. Job was blameless, a man of complete integrity. He feared God and stayed away from evil, much like our hypothetical person here. And he then becomes tested by Satan. God allows it. Whether that happened or not, that's for another debate, another question. But we see that Job loses pretty much everything that he had. His property gets raided by a neighboring tribe. They stole his animals. They killed his farmhands. Then another location, fire burned his sheep and his shepherds. They were all killed. And then his property undergoes another raid, and this time they stole his camels and killed all the servants. So all his livelihood, all his means for earning a wage, providing for his family, all taken from him. Animals stolen and killed, all his farmhands, his workers killed. And then it continues to pile on, right? When it rains, it pours. At a family dinner, where all his children were gathered, a strong wind had come by and blown over the house and killed all of his kids. Job is beside himself, right? I mean, which one of us wouldn't be? So much tragedy, so much heartache. End of chapter 1. Job stood up and tore his robe in grief. Then he shaved his head and fell to the ground and to worship. And he said, I came naked from my mother's womb, and I will be naked when I leave. The Lord gave me what I had, and the Lord has taken it away. Praise the name of the Lord. In all of this, Job did not sin by blaming God. But it continues then. God says to Satan, once again, speaking about Job, he is the finest man in all the earth. He is blameless, a man of complete integrity. He fears God and stays away from evil, and he has maintained his integrity, even though you urge me to harm him without cause. So, Now Job becomes afflicted with boils all over his body. He's in chronic pain. He's scratching himself. It's a miserable life. And his wife then finally comes to him and says, Job, what's wrong with you? Curse God. Scripture says, are you trying to maintain your integrity? Curse God and die. Like, forget God. Where is God in all this? Because you are suffering. He's taken away from your families. He's harming you. You are without anything right now. The heck with God, because God isn't protecting you, is what she's saying. And we hear that all the time from society when bad things happen to Christians, when bad things happen to us and to our loved ones. But yet, Job replies, you talk like a foolish woman. Should we accept only good things from the hand of God and never anything bad? So in all this, Job said nothing wrong. And then the remainder of Job is pretty much the to-do book of how not to care for your friend. When 3 of Job's friends come and try to make things better. So if you're interested in how not to respond to tragedy, those are undergoing. Read the next 38 chapters of Job, and you'll see and read about these 3 friends that were trying to do good, I suspect, but very much missed the mark. So all this is to say, bad things happen, and it stinks. It's tragic. It's one of those, I don't want to say mysteries, because we live in a fallen world. We live in a broken world, and we live in a world where we not only have free will, but it's the world that God created for us to, in which He deemed that it would be the most appropriate world for us to exercise our free will and to accept or reject ultimately His love. And with that comes not automatons or Autobots, Transformers. We are not programmed just to aimlessly love God. We choose that, and oftentimes many of our choices lend themselves to bad circumstances. Now we can say why the husband died in the dump truck and just seemingly terrible things. Yes, obviously getting colon cancer isn't a choice that that part, I don't have a great answer for it. We live in a world that's fallen and broken, and some things that just don't make sense to us, and we just shake our heads and say, God, heal us. God, please give us some mercy. And we also just wait for the coming of God's ultimate kingdom. Now, this is also to say, to go back to the question of the 2 people, one person seemingly having the charmed life, and I just want to pause there, seemingly living a charmed life. In my experience, both as a police officer and now especially even more, I would say, as a pastor too, appearances and what we divulge aren't always the truth, or always aren't the full spectrum of what we're undergoing. Not everything's made public. Not everything is shared. What we deem or judge to say they are living a charmed life, many of us don't know what they're going through, what kind of tragedy or turmoil or struggles that they are going through. Some people feel comfortable with sharing their struggles within a small circle of people and with the public or on Facebook. Others are not. Many are much more reserved, and they've already divulged to me, and I'm sure other pastors, other than my family, you're the only person I'm telling this to. So they might put on a smile. They might, dress neatly and comb their hair and walk the straight and narrow. We might look at them and say, oh, they got it so good, but they don't. Or they do, but they are also struggling. So I would just caution all of us to compare tragedies, to compare turmoil. I have it, you have it, all of us undergo it. But what I do know is that we bind together as a church. We are called as a church to prop each other up, to help each other up, to get through the struggles, and to be those answered prayers, to help people get the resources that they need, and to also just be there and comfort them and provide for them as well. So I really don't have the answer to this that maybe you were looking for. But the tragedy that one person undergoes is not a punishment. I know sometimes we think of that, even maybe that came up in this question, when they're not making bad decisions as drugs, infidelity, acting as a racist, etc. Cancer is not a punishment for sin. It's not a punishment for sin that you committed or your parents committed or somewhere. So that, please just wash that away. But this is one of those questions that I hope to one day get answered by God. And I might also get the response that God gave to Job and said, hey, I'm God, you're man, you stay in your lane, I'll stay in mine. Not an easy question. I've been looking at this one for a while, and that's the best answer I have, other than I can be your pastor, I can pray with you and comfort you and do the best that I can humanly possible. And I hope that's satisfactory for now. May God be with you all until we meet again.